Hey everyone, it's September 13th, and that means that if today's your birthday, you share it with Spanish-American serial killer Reinaldo Rivera, who murdered at least 4 women at the end of the last century, and that is him right down there. Born in Madrid in 1963, Rivera's family moved to Puerto Rico when he was 7, where he managed to avoid ending up in any major trouble as a youth. When he turned 19, he joined the U.S. Navy and spent 3 years in the service, after which he worked for the Joint Chiefs of Staff in Washington, D.C. from 1986 to 1991. Rivera then attended the University of South Carolina, earning a degree in office administration, and got married while in college, fathering 2 children with his new bride. He went back to the Navy, serving in Florida and Texas before being discharged in 1995. He moved the family to Aiken, South Carolina, and everything seemed to be all set for a comfortable life when he got hired as a tire inspector at a Bridgestone plant. But while things seemed normal on the outside, Rivera was secretly indulging what he claims was a sex addiction, where he would approach women in public posing as a scout for a new modeling agency. The women were mostly young and blonde, and on at least 4 occasions he convinced them to get into his car, with deadly results. His first confirmed victim was killed in 1999 when he abducted a 17-year-old girl, drove her to a secluded wooded area, then sexually assaulted and stabbed her to death. Later that year, he abducted another 17-year-old and her 2-month-old daughter outside of Winn-Dixie. 3 days later, the child was found alive in her carrier at the South Carolina-Georgia border. Her mother's body was discovered by hunters a few weeks later, with her hands bound behind her back and evidence showing that she'd been sexually assaulted before being stabbed in the back. The next year, an 18-year-old was abducted and killed in Augusta, Georgia, and finally a 21-year-old soldier was attacked in her own home. She initially survived, but sustained heavy injuries and died 5 days after being rushed to the hospital. In October of 2000, Rivera convinced an 18-year-old woman to take him home with the promise of taking photos to use for a modeling portfolio. Once there, he sexually assaulted and stabbed her 3 times in the throat with a steak knife from her own kitchen. Luckily, she survived the attack and was able to relay to investigators details about the assailant that led them to Rivera. He was hiding in a motel, and when the police showed up, he slashed his wrists, but his suicide attempt was unsuccessful. A full confession came while he was in the hospital, and he was charged with 4 murders. During his trial, he claimed to be mentally ill and said that he still fantasized about killing his victims and he'd do it again if given the chance. At trial, he was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to death row, where he sits today in Georgia. He is being investigated for links to another 15 killings fitting a similar MO that occurred in areas where he has resided, but as of yet, no additional charges have been filed. An appeal was filed in 2016 in which Rivera recanted his confession and claimed to be innocent of all charges, but he remains on death row and is unlikely to succeed with any of his efforts to get out. If this is your birthday, I hope you have a great day. Leave me a comment so I can wish you a happy birthday. If you know someone whose birthday it is today, send them this video so they can find out all about their birthday twin. And to Reinaldo Rivera, I say, happy birthday, you bastard.